strikes. We're not getting paid fairly for the labor that we put in.
The way that wealth and equity are distributed.
Growing up, like having a lot of struggles. I grew up in like a super working class family. My dad got laid off in the recession.
Environmental degradation, seeing ourselves as individuals separate from the land, separate from each other, and even to some degree separated from certain parts of ourselves. Free market capitalism and that sort of thing that kind of drives this, like, you are in it as an individual for yourself and not for anyone else.
Finding ways to dismantle the institution of like white supremacy and racism, as well as finding an alternative economy that works for all of us.
Because we're facing some huge problems: climate crisis, sexism, racism, income inequality. The list goes on, and all of these issues, they're not single or separate issues. They're all interconnected and have root causes.
We often see a lot of things that we need to fight against, like I'm against racism, I'm against white supremacy, but there's also a lot of things that we can fight for and build up to provide an alternative for what we have today.
We believe that young people need to be leading the fight against these root causes.
So we are Young People's Action Coalition. We were founded in 2013 by a group of high school students who all came to the table with experience and interest around different social justice issues.
YPAC is a democratic and entirely youth-run organization.
We organize with high school students across the state of Minnesota to build understanding of and action around a variety of different social justice issues. So we use a frame of what we would call intersectionality.
Meaning that we look at all these different issues that are connected and recognize that they have similar root causes or the same root causes.
Okay, there are 4 pillars in Young People's Action Coalition. The first one is about getting young people involved in direct actions and getting them to take leadership roles at these events.
So that looks like rallies, protests, phone banks,
Strikes and actions and walkouts. It's an experience of collective power for social change.
So our second pillar is leadership development and trainings for young organizers.
Helping them organize events and actions.
public speaking skills, facilitation skills, how to write workshop curriculum so that we can actually be educating each other.
Be able to have the tools to organize in their own schools and their own communities about the issues that are most important to them, and finding ways that we can connect and work together across those issues.
With an organization called YPAC, and I'm just here to show that youth are here involved, youth are here in solidarity, and youth want 15 now.
The third pillar of our work is education. So what that looks like for us is going into different high schools and middle schools during school or after school and educating about a variety of different issues. So climate justice, racial justice, that sort of thing. And a lot of what we do is work with students who are already fired up about those particular issues and help them to create workshops and facilitate their own workshops at their high schools to help educate their peers about these things.
Another part of the education pillar is the zine. It's a small magazine that we print, and it's a compilation of different articles and pictures and artwork of young people across the state, and all of these things are social justice themed, and it's kind of an intersectional piece of art.
So the fourth part of our organization is running a sustainable farm here in Northfield as a youth-run democratic cooperative, and we use this farm both to grow food to sell to the 2 colleges in town, and also as a tool to educate young people about the food system.
Because we see that there's a lot of things that it's not just about the food, it's also about who is working in the food industry, the consumers of the food that we're growing, the land that we grow it on.
We've been using that to learn about and teach other young people about running a cooperative business and making democratic decisions together, and we hope the knowledge we've been able to get from that will help us start other successful cooperatives in the future.
This model of having worker ownership of a business can be replicated, so it's not only for farms but can be put in different places, and we want this to be a model for different kinds of a new economy, essentially. We believe in putting young people, particularly young women and young people of color, at the center of building a new food system.
We need to train the next generation of activists and organizers to take action in their communities and schools.
And that's why we're raising $10,000.
To fund the work of Young People's Action Coalition and to also take our work to a new scale. So 100% of the money that we raise will go to high school student activists as stipends and scholarships to enable them to attend regular meetings for trainings, political education, strategizing, and application.
This is not just a contribution to a one-time campaign. This is an investment in the future of activists and organizers to go into workplaces, schools, run campaigns and elections, and not just to fight for justice, but also to win.
Join us in building this youth movement.
Young people will be leading this movement, but you're needed in this fight too.
Support building this young people's movement by donating.